Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode about At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I don't have a film planned for today. I'll just be doing one of my lists. But don't worry, next week, next Monday, I'll have a proper episode out of the podcast, and then on Friday, it'll be me covering the films that I watched in the past month. So there'll be 2 episodes next week. And so for this week, for this list of films that I will be covering today, I will be covering my ranking of the Star Wars films. Now this is just for the live action films, all 11 live action Star Wars films that have been produced and released at this current point in time. So, this will just be from, there'll be no animated films, there won't be the Star Wars Holiday Special or the Ewok films or anything like that. It'll just be the main series Star Wars films. I'm going to start from the bottom and then I'm going to work my way to number 1. So, at the bottom is Attack of the Clones. I don't think I'm going to get too much hate for saying that's the worst Star Wars film, or at least from some people, because I would argue it is the worst Star Wars film. It just has so little in it that is of quality and that is good. I don't. It's just not very good. It's just not very good. I don't like. I don't really like the prequels, which for some people is apparently quite. Which is so weird that that's like a controversial opinion now that the prequels are crap. I don't really think it should be. Like, if people like them, that's totally fine. But the fact that I say I don't like them is controversial. It's just weird. But it doesn't. It's not good. It's not a good movie. I don't care for it. It's not a. It's just not good. I don't really. I know I could just say the same thing because I feel like anything bad that I could say about this film has already been said, and so there's no point. So, Attack of the Clones, the worst Star Wars film in my humble opinion. Then after that is The Phantom Menace. Again, there's not really much I need to say because I think the Mr. Plinkett reviews on the Star Wars prequels is pretty much like the best analysis and best deconstruction of why the Star Wars prequels fail. So there's nothing for me to really say. I just prefer it to Episode 2 because the love story in Episode 2 is way worse than... hell, I don't like Jar Jar because nobody I know really likes Jar Jar. But honestly, the love story in Attack of the Clones is just worse, and that's what sort of drops it down. That's why it's, in my opinion, the worst Star Wars film. Then I've got The Rise of Skywalker. I don't like this film either. It's really disappointing how the sequel trilogy ended, because I'm just gonna say I quite liked what they were doing with it. I like Last Jedi and I like The Force Awakens. But then the Rise of Skywalker happens, and J.J. Abrams basically just took everything that Rian Johnson did and all the interesting things he did and just was like, actually, no, this is what it is. In the long run, this is Disney's fault. This is their fault. They did this. They effed up. So, and the reason why I put Rise of Skywalker above Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones is that there is some good stuff. The Harrison Ford cameo in it was quite nice. Adam Driver, the consistently quite good part of the sequel trilogy. I think even people who don't like the movies have to admit that Adam Driver is quite good in them. That's just my opinion, is that he is at least consistently good. in these movies. In my opinion, I genuinely think he holds up and works even if the rest of the films don't. But it is not good. And now we move into the sorry. Now we move into the mediocre tier of Star Wars films. So we've got Solo, a Star Wars story. It's not. It's not bad. I think some of the hate towards it was a bit undue. I probably will not watch it honestly again unless I do like a big Star Wars marathon, which is like I probably will watch this, but not. This isn't a film that I just want to. I don't want like it's not just something that I just want to pop on like some of these other Star Wars films are. So yeah, I mean I don't think Alden Ehrenreich, the guy who plays Han Solo, I I don't think he was particularly bad. Honestly, I don't dislike him like a lot of people do. He's like fine. He's just fine. He's perfectly like it's fine. It's fine. He is fine in it. And I will say I quite liked Donald Glover in it as Lando Calrissian. I mean, I just like Donald Glover in anything really. I think he's multi talented and pretty good at whatever he does. And I also think Paul Bettany was quite an interesting villain. It does suck though that like because I think it's pretty well known that the film is going to be made by Chris Miller and Phil Lord, who are fantastic, and I love their work to bits. The Lego movie, the Lego movie, the first one, the 21, 22 Jump Street films, and Cloud with the Chance of Meatballs, the first one. And I honestly think Solo could have been pretty decent, maybe even the best of the Star Wars Disney Star Wars films. But no, they got fired for having fun on a film set. I'm like it is weird though because I just don't really care about any of the characters that they set up. Like because either the characters they do set up I know don't will not die, and then there's the other characters who are just like you're not in the other ones, so you probably don't make it out of this one. And but it is fine. It is it's better than Rise of Skywalker and better than Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Because I genuinely don't like those movies. But Solo is like actually fine. Then next Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Quite like do I quite like it? I like it. It's better than it had any right to be based upon the other two prequels. Like I think it's fair to say that most people agree it's the best of the prequels. They it's weird how good it is in comparison to the other two. Like it's not amazing. That it's not an amazing film, but in comparison to the others, like it's quite impressive, honestly, how good it is. Because it shouldn't, yeah, like I said, it shouldn't have been as good as it is because of like the prior quality. But I quite like it. I understand there is some really hokey stuff, some really stupid stuff in it, and it can be ridiculous at times, but I still think it's a nice conclusion to this trilogy. I still don't like all of it. There's some major problems with them, I think that I mean I know people who put this as the best Star Wars film, and I know someone who puts it as their favorite film, and they are wrong because it has got objective flaws in it that like people can like it, and that's totally fine. But also, like, come on, you gotta admit, even for people who do like the film, that there are problems with it. It is not this amazing, perfect film. That being said, I do like it. It is good, and it's fine. Like it's a good movie, and I will happily watch it. The final duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, like the thing that the entire trilogy has been building up to, I thought was very good. One of the best duels in Star Wars history, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah, it was really yeah. I do quite like it. Yeah, it's yeah, it's fine. Here's the controversial bit: The Last Jedi. Yeah, I like The Last Jedi better than the prequels. And I don't really think that should be controversial. My opinions on a movie, but apparently this is because I remember seeing this film when it came out, and honestly, I thought it was quite good. Honestly, and I knew nothing of like the controversy or the people complaining about it because it's Star. They do things I didn't want them to do with Star Wars, and Luke did this, and they killed this character, and they did blah blah blah, and it's just like okay. And I didn't know about that until like a couple weeks afterwards, and then I was like, oh, people don't like this movie. Interesting. And I was, but I always liked it. Now, on a rewatch I did towards the end of last year, I did a rewatch of all the Star Wars films, and I was like, yeah, this isn't as good as I remember it being. However, it's not bad. And I think I quite like it. Like, I do think, like, I think the stuff they do with Luke, whilst controversial to some people, was an interesting thing to do with his character. And people that got upset because this isn't what Luke Skywalker would do. It's like, well, do you know that? Like, I don't like. Do you honestly think that like this is like? It's just weird that people are so obsessed over um, a movie, like a film about you know like a dumb space movie essentially is like the way to put it. Not in a bad way per se, but that like because when I say dumb space movie, that sounds insulting, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm insulting it because that's not true at all. I don't dislike it, and saying the dumb space movies does seem slightly demeaning, but it's not. But it's sort of a way to simplify it. Of like, it's just a film that like all it is just a film about people it's essentially ostensibly a kids film, right? Like kids watch Star Wars films, and people are complaining about it being political, despite the fact that like Star Wars has always been political. Like in the prequels, they were like literally about like Star Wars politics, and then like the original trilogy, like George Lucas himself has discussed how Star Wars has always been political. So it's just sort of like you can't really complain about it because Star Wars has always been like this. Honestly, like you can't complain about it, but you're just wrong and just weird for doing so for caring. And like people who are like, oh, I don't want politics in Star Wars, and then complain about the politics of Star Wars. It's just like, just grow up. It's just a movie. I think, like, yeah. I'm just tired of talking about The Last Jedi. Not because I dislike it, but because I'm tired of people complaining about it. Still. Nearly 4 years since this film has come out, and people still go on and on about it. And it's ridiculous. Like, it's just insane. I like it. Like, I think it's in the mid tier of Star Wars. It's in the middle of the sequels as well. I would argue, like, because each Star Wars trilogy, the prequels, sequels, and original trilogy, have interesting ways of going. Like, the prequels are like the sort of bad and then they get good at the end. The sequel trilogy gets progressively worse and worse, and then the originals just kind of get better. Although Return of the Jedi is my least favorite of the original trilogy, but we'll get into that in a minute. But like again, as I say, Adam Driver, the best part of these Star Wars films, of these new Star Wars films. I mean, Adam Driver is just a great actor in general, and he's like without a doubt the best part of these new movies. I don't have a problem with Rey as a character, honestly. I mean, I just don't really have a problem with any of the characters, honestly. They're inoffensive. They are fine. And now we move on to the relatively good Star Wars films. Rogue One. I really liked Rogue One. I do. I think it is good. I think it's a lot of fun. I like the ending where, spoiler alert, everybody dies. Like, I just like that they were just like, yeah, none of these people are in the next one, so we can just, kill them. We can just kill every character in this movie because we can. Because they're not going to be in the sequel, and so it doesn't matter what we do with them because they won't be in it. They're not going to be in them. And I was like, they were just willing to just, like, kill everybody. I respect that they know that, like, yeah, this is, we might as well wrap up this story, and the characters are all gonna die. And that they do all die. And I just like that they're willing to kill off all these characters. And I think, like, the third act is quite good. I do really quite like the third act of the film. And yeah, it's just a really fun time. It's just a really good Star Wars movie, Now move on to The Force Awakens. I have always liked it. From the moment I saw it, I think, is there a possibility of nostalgia? Maybe slightly. Because this was the first Star Wars film I ever saw in theaters. Because I wasn't alive when the original trilogy came out, and I wasn't alive for the first two prequels. And by the time the third prequel came out, I would have been like I wouldn't have even been two. I would have been like one and a half. So so this was like the first Star Wars film I saw in theaters, and it was a blast. And it still is. I still really, really like it. I still think, as a film, it holds up relatively well. Like, there's not everything in it works as well anymore, but I still think it's a good movie. I still do like it. Adam Driver, the highlight throughout the entire sequels, and arguably the best actor of it all. And I do still really like Force Awakens. I just think it is. I still think it is a good movie, and I still do really quite like it today. It's just fantastic. It's just a fantastic... Is it fantastic? Fantastic might be a bit harsh, actually. It's harsh? Too much. It's not fantastic, but it's just really quite good, and I still do like it. And this is again controversial for some reason that I like a movie, but that's just how some people are. They care so much about my opinions on movies, especially movies that don't especially matter. But I do like it. I still think it works. And now we're moving on to the top three. So the top three is it's obviously the original trilogy because they are obviously the best Star Wars films. Like, come on. And so I kind of feel like this ranking is the most like standard ranking of the original trilogy. Return of the Jedi at the bottom, then the original Star Wars, then the Empire Strikes Back. I'm gonna talk about them sort of in a group because they're the top three, and it's like the most. It is the standard way of ranking Star Wars films. Return of the Jedi is the weakest, but I still love Return of the Jedi to bits. I still think it's still a really really great film that I really really like. So the complaints I don't really get, honestly, I think most of it holds up and works still. Now that's just my opinion that the whole thing works. Like it is the weakest. I will admit it is the weakest of the original trilogy. But I don't think that's controversial to say that's the weakest. I mean, I know people who put it as their favorite, and I don't really get it. Although I do really quite like it. Sorry. And yeah, it is the weakest though. The Ewoks really do drag it down a bit. That's like my primary problem with it, is that the Ewoks as characters are just weird. Not weird, like, I get why they do them, and I know that Star Wars has always been doing stuff for money, because that's just how companies act. That's just how companies are. That they're just making stuff for the sake of, making a profit. And that's fine. They can do what they want. It's just that sort of detracts from the film. But that being said, I still do really, really I still do really quite like Return of the Jedi. Then we got the original Star Wars. I mean, like, it's obviously great. Like, it's a perfect movie. Genuinely, like, how can you dislike the original Star Wars? Like, it's just brilliant. It's just so good. As a movie, it just works so well as a movie, and there's nothing really to dislike about it. It honestly has more or less everything that you want. Like, it holds up. Like, the special effects are phenomenal. Like, it has truly got some phenomenal special effects in it that still hold up, even considering the fact that this was made in the late 70s. Like, it still holds up. The story is great. The trench run, like the third act is really quite well done, and I do really quite like it. I think it is one of my favorite third acts in a film ever, and it's just really good. It's a fantastic film, and yeah, Now, of course, it is second to the best Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. I don't really think there's much more I need to say, considering that most people agree this is the best Star Wars. I mean, a lot of people I know would consider this the best Star Wars. I mean, some people might consider the original Star Wars the best one, which is fine, and I can understand that. But honestly, The Empire Strikes Back, just as a film, is so good. Like it's a darker film. It goes further with the characters. It does so much more with them, and just expands upon the universe in a great way. And it's great. It's fantastic. You get introduced. There's so many good characters like Yoda and Lando Calrissian and Boba Fett and all this great stuff, and it does all these things with it, and it's just fantastic. And I don't really feel like I need to say anything else, because everything that can be said about this film has been said. So that is the end of William's list part 5, I think it is. I'll just go through the full list again from the bottom to the top, as I usually do. So, at the bottom, Attack of the Clones, The Phantom Menace, The Rise of Skywalker, Solo, A Star Wars Story, Revenge of the Sith, The Last Jedi, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, The Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, and The Empire Strikes Back. So thank you all for joining me for this week's episode. Shorter one this week, because that's sort of how these listings go. They're usually in a shorter period of time. But next week will be a proper episode covering, a film. And very soon I'll be doing a trilogy of episodes on a certain director's filmography. I will not tell you who it is, because that is really a surprise. But that will be next week or the week after. It will be a trilogy covering a specific director's filmography. So thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.